fuck it and dive right in this time. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of The Swamp Creatures. Me and Rob are here tonight. Rob will be here shortly. But tonight we are joined by Joel Valenzuela, the Desert Lynx.
Hey, how's it going? Good evening to everyone.
Yeah, it's going good out there for everyone. And tonight we're also going to be continuing our little series of crypto podcasts. So we're gonna have a lot to talk about here tonight, especially after our last one that we had 2 weeks ago with Raph from the Crypto Vigilante. But before we dive in, Joel, why don't you let people know a little bit about yourself if they're not familiar?
My name is Joel. I've been in the crypto world for about 9 years or so now. I got my first Bitcoin in exchange for a pizza transaction back in 2013 on my way to move up to New Hampshire to take part of this thing called the Free State Project. And ever since I've been using cryptocurrencies in pretty much daily life. It was at the end of 2015 I decided to stop accepting dollars or government currency as payment and just only live on crypto. And so, still doing that today. And yeah, I've been around for a while.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I didn't know about that pizza thing. Is that the fabled guy? Are you the fabled guy who bought the pizza with Bitcoin?
Sadly, no, that was like a couple years before. I was going through Chicago, and a friend of mine, um, he didn't have the money on him to pay for the pizza that we shared, so he just said, "Hey, I'm going to give you Bitcoin instead." And I'm like, "All right." And I'd already kind of known about it for almost a year, and was excited. And that's kind of the first I got. So most people dive into crypto and stuff like that, and then at some point they're just like, I'm going to get a Coinbase and start buying some or something like that. And I never did any of that. I've never bought from an exchange or anything, just only been paid in it. And yeah, there you go.
So, how exactly do you go about something like that? Because I'm sure that most people who listen to this are probably not used to getting paid. They probably go through like Coinbase or Crypto.com or something like that.
Yeah, so the landscape of that has really changed a lot in the latest few years. But obviously, it's a lot easier if you're in the crypto space. If you're in the crypto space, you work for any kind of crypto related companies or projects or do anything like that, and they don't want to pay in crypto, you probably should run and work for someone else. Like it's kind of pretty ubiquitous there. And there's outside of the crypto world, there's like a few things you could do, um, especially if you run your own business. But there's also some hacks. Like there's a great company called Bitwage that lets you just take direct deposit or invoice as like a small business or whatever, send invoices to people and they pay them via like ACH or bank transfer, whatever, and it just ends up as crypto on your side of things. So it's basically, and I think Coinbase has a direct deposit option too, where you can receive direct deposits and just have that immediately converted to crypto. So there's a few different options in most of like the developed world. Anyone can receive part or all of their money in crypto without too many hoops.
So, what about using crypto? Because that seems to be another little hurdle where, something like crypto.com, for example, sure they have a card, but, you're just converting it to USD to put on the card and then you're just using USD.
Yeah, the spending crypto thing is the specifics of that change all the time. And in fact, I was going to, if you asked me last week, I would say use Bitrefill. You can pay all your utility bills and everything with it. Except then they recently had to suspend that service temporarily. So like on the day to day, sometimes these things change. But yeah, there's a lot of options to kind of do that depending on where you live and stuff. Um, there's a lot of places where you're going to find a few individual merchants and things that just will take it directly. But mostly, if you're getting into, from my understanding of the developed world, right, there's quite a few kind of intermediary services that most of them kind of let you buy gift credit and then for big box retailers and such, and then trade it in for the actual goods and services, all on kind of a very smooth user experience. And so, for example, the two that are probably the best in the US that I can think of are an app called Dash Direct, which used to be like a Dash only type thing, but now the same sort of backend is integrated into the Cake wallet, which is like a Monero, Bitcoin, and Litecoin wallet, and also the Edge wallet. But basically, it lets you go up to, let's say, a Dunkin' Donuts, whatever the total your order is. When they tell you the order, you just type in the amount in this app and hit buy, and you turn it around and they scan it, and there you go. So it acts like the user experience is almost as if you're paying it directly, when in fact you're just buying a gift code for exactly that amount and then trading that over. And there's a few services that do that. There's one called Flexa, which I haven't tried yet. I've been trying to try, but for some reason the email confirmation thing doesn't work. But as soon as I get that sorted, I'll figure it out. But that's another similar thing where they will scan like a QR code on your phone, and then it'll go from crypto to whatever. And those are kind of the easiest ways to spend in the U.S. There's a couple of places, and again, this is where it shifts pretty quickly. There's a couple of places that let you buy like prepaid debit cards, like virtual debit cards on the fly. And so if you have something like a Coinbase account or like the BitPay card or the Crypto.com card or one of those kinds of things, that's basically like a crypto bank. Like you give your money to someone else, they hold on to it for you. You give the ID and get it on all the government database and all that kind of stuff. It's tied to your identity and can be revoked or whatever. And then you just do it like a crypto bank, which is like, I mean, if you think about it, 15 years ago, if any of us had, any of us in the Liberty movement had said, guess what? You can get a bank, you'll be able to get a bank account where you spend non-government free market currency. But other than that, it's just like a bank account. We would all be losing our minds. Like, look, this is like so incredible. But being spoiled the way I am today, there's some of these services that let you do that without presenting your ID or tying it to your physical identity at all. Like there's obviously limitations, like only so much at a time, and they're single-use cards, meaning that once you, like, let's say I want to buy, not Amazon because that's easy enough to do a workaround, but like some esoteric website or whatever, you could just go there. There's a little browser extension you pull out, and then your total is like 193.47, and then you buy with crypto a virtual debit card, a virtual prepaid card for 193.47 or whatever, spend it instantly, and then it's all gone. So you kind of buy like a card balance that's there for about like 30 seconds, and then it's gone. So there used to be a few different of those options. Now there's only two that I could think of off the top of my head, but they're working on a bunch more. But basically, the Live Guide crypto life is becoming a lot less weird and complicated with a million hoops these days. And my kind of rough prediction is that by like 2025, I think we're going to start seeing more than just like a couple people start living all in crypto.
And Rob, welcome to the show here. Just so you know, we're talking about living unbanked and living completely off of crypto away from the dollar.
Yeah, that seemed like the conversation. Thanks for joining us, Joel. Sorry I was a little bit late.
No problem.
I haven't ate dinner, so I made a pulled pork sandwich. Free, didn't cost any money here.
Nice, from your own fridge, I hope.
Yeah, from the own fridge. Yep.
I was gonna say that's the fastest anyone has ever pulled pork this side of the Mississippi.
This side? Which side of the Mississippi are you? I was gonna ask where are you located?
East Coast, the free
East
state
Coast?
of New Hampshire.
New Hampshire?
Yeah, he lives up in the second freest state.
You're up there with the free staters, aren't you?
Yep, proud. Right. Been doing this, I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary moving out there.
Cool. Do you have, Mitch, if you have loaded questions, like already ready to go, that's fine. I just have a couple.
So loaded meaning prepared or loaded?
Prepared.
Gotcha questions.
Yeah, no, I don't get any gotcha questions. I just thought it would be kind of cool to have a conversation about and see where it goes a little bit. But I do have some stuff like just from what's been in the news to discuss too.
There you go.
Which I guess on that topic, I might as well bring up the big thing that's even in this title for clickbait purposes. Sam Bankman's been arrested.
That he has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And last I looked, it looks like his parents are now down in the Bahamas trying to stop the extradition.
Yeah, that's to be expected.
Yeah.
Um,
I did see a clip of Maxine Waters today. I think either him or
I'm
someone
sorry.
on behalf of him was testifying to Congress, and she was trying to wrap it up, and then some Republican, I don't know which representative it was, but he was like, I haven't had an opportunity to question the witness. Let me question the witness here." So it's I mean, obviously there's a lot of ties there. I think he was giving the government money, whether that be on the Democrat side or Republican side. Who knows? But we'll have to find out. We'll have to see. I see a lot of the there's like a Twitter trend going on right now. Like he didn't kill himself, that sort of thing already, even though he's still alive. But that's going on right now. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
speculative at the moment. We'll have to find out where the
Well,
money went.
let me hit my quick speculation on where this thing is going. Um, I tend to be what I call like a natural conspiracy theorist, meaning the Occam's razor kind of stuff. Like I'm more than willing to believe in something intricate, but usually the most simple thing is probably the right thing, right? So probably this kid got into business in the crypto world, and he got all this like support because he happens to have very well connected parents and family, and he got a lot of seed capital, and he basically ran a scam because he ran a scam. Ran a fraudulent business that makes you grow much faster, and then you start paying off the right people. It's not like the same as like well, it's kind of the same as like a mafia type thing, like paying off, but it's not 100% as transactional. It's more like he knows because his family and connections and stuff that you do better if you make these generous donations to all these key parties and stuff. It's a good investment, right? And so he does all that. This whole thing crashes because it was always a house of cards, because he's a fraud and a thief and a degenerate gambler and all that stuff. And it just happened to be that the Binance guy ended up like sort of pushing over that first domino. Probably saw he was up to some stuff and saw he was about to ruin the party for everyone by like calling for extra regulation and things. He's like, all right, let me knock this guy off his pedestal. But I would guess that even CZ of Binance didn't even know how bad things were. They kind of thought they'd be that bad, but not that bad. So the thing crashes. This kid like takes off to the Bahamas. A kid. He's like over 30, but whatever. I guess it's a kid to most people. He just I think there's a time when everyone collectively on his side of the aisle, first off, is a little bit blindsided by what happened. Like, whoa, this was our guy, and look how much he screwed up. And there's a brief moment of like hesitation. It's just like, do we do this? Do we that? And then you start seeing the PR wheels turning of like, well, let's sugarcoat this. Let's make this guy to be just a poor misunderstood, whatever. Because they're getting ready to like all fall in lockstep behind their guy. And I think at some point recently they started to be like, I don't know if we can save this. I think the public knows too much. I think it's time for this guy to be our fall guy.
Yeah,
And I think
and then
that's
he
kind of
did
what
an
we saw in the
interview with
last couple of
someone.
days.
He did an interview with
Yeah.
someone. Was it 60 Minutes?
I think it was Good Morning America, wasn't
Good Morning
it?
Yeah, I
America,
think that's what it
and
was.
it looked bad. They were questioning him, and at one point, yeah, I remember because I heard this on Dave Smith's podcast. At one point, the clip that I heard from Part of the Problem, he should have had a lawyer there present. Honestly, that's no more question. I would have stopped the interview. I probably would have done the interview if I was the guy, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
From what
PR.
I understand, real quickly, and I don't mean to interrupt, but I think he fired quite a few of his lawyers.
Yeah, I didn't specifically see that. I know that he was counseled not to do these interviews.
Mm,
I didn't follow where that happened after that. But it makes sense, right? You want to like keep your mouth shut, you want to do whatever. And I think that his whole like playing with the whole testimony thing, like there's a little bit of a conspiracy going on right now about that they arrested him to keep him from testifying or something. I'm not quite sure I believe that, at least not right now, not with present information. It just seems like he was playing kind of cat and mouse, like, well, I don't know, we'll like him talk to you, and then they're just like, okay, enough of that, just get rid of the guy. Also, it's worth noting that, as far as I know, is the authorities of the Bahamas who arrested him, and then there's talk of extradition. It's not like they're like coordination happens that, but it's not like as much as it's all sort of the same club. There's many different entities in the club, and so I don't know about how that timing kind of came down, but yeah. So what do you guys think is going to happen next?
I honestly
Yeah,
don't
go ahead.
know. Sorry,
Yeah,
I was just saying
I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
either. And I haven't been following this one too close, and it's developing pretty fast. But like I said, I saw that clip from the Good Morning America, and then I saw where someone was testifying at Congress. Couldn't have been him, right? That was not him.
I don't
Sam
think so.
Bankman-Fried.
I don't believe so.
Let's see. It says SBF scheduled. This is Yahoo News. SBF scheduled to testify tomorrow at U.S. House hearing on FTX collapse. So that was yesterday. Would have been today, and I saw the clip today. So I'm not sure. I'll work on pulling that up and the Maxine Waters and figure out what it is real quick.
Yeah, I think he's just been hunkered down in the Bahamas, but the it was an entire team of people working on FTX, if I'm not mistaken, too, who were all
Mm-hmm.
kind of living in the same general place.
Yeah, it
I don't.
was his room, all his roommates slash girlfriend slash whatever. And we haven't heard much about them, have we?
No, which you would think that they would come up and be implicated in quite a bit of this as well, um, which has been the real fascinating thing about all of this. I don't know. Part of me
Yeah,
feels like what you're saying is probably the most likely thing, that they tried to hold the guy up, but at this point they have to use him as the sacrificial lamb.
yeah, and it might have been also like because I guess there's too much. There's too much. I'm not sure what the great term is, but there's too much baggage associated with this guy. It's like if you save him, it's kind of like OJ getting off. It's like one of those kinds of things where everyone kind of knows they did it. Everyone kind of knows there's a problem. Uh, there is a high probability, I would say, that they've gotten his co-conspirators to cooperate already, and so they're already kind of getting what they want out of that. So the big cheese himself, the figurehead, where people are paying close attention to him, I think that's a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm finding stuff. Mitch, I'm gonna send you a link, and you can
Yeah,
play the
I just
video.
got the Maxine Waters
That
one here. I'm
that one
actually pulling it
is
up.
from Fox Business, but that's not today.
Okay. Here, let me close that then. Yeah, no, I think if anything, this just kind of shows that crypto itself is just a tool, and it's not immune from corruption, and that there are entities that would like to try and use this great technology in a way that's counterproductive to those core ideas of being free and getting away from the dollar.
Yeah, the funny thing about FTX though is the entire reason things didn't turn out well, there's many reasons, I guess, but the big one is that they were literally embezzling customer funds. They took customer funds and did something else with it. But the real kicker on that is if they just operated as a normal crypto exchange or crypto bank, basically, then there wouldn't have been this capacity for problems. The thing is, every single bank in America is doing the exact same thing as FTX on maybe an insured and lower risk way, but legally they're doing the exact same thing that he did, kind of illegally. So, like we're talking about, a bunch of people are getting scared of Binance going under or something, and I mean, I don't think that's probably going to happen, but people are withdrawing their money from Binance, like 30 billion or something. Wow, I forget what the number was, but a bunch of people pull their money off. And if it's a completely solvent exchange, you could have 100% of your customers withdraw your funds, and you're still okay, because that's just the way it works. Now, if you're a bank and like 50% of your customers withdraw your funds, that's a bank run. You're done. You're done for. You know. So I think it's kind of interesting how that kind of shook out.
Okay,
Yeah, and
so let me go ahead. Go ahead, Mitch? Sorry.
here you want me to play the clip?
Not right, not just yet. Well, yeah, hit play, but in a second. Sam Bankman-Fried was a no-show. He wasn't here, but they still had an FTX hearing, and it was in front of the House Financial Services Committee, and Maxine Waters was the outgoing chair of that committee, so she's leading it. She's obviously a Democrat, and the Democrats have been trying to reallocate these funds that were donated from FTX. So needless to say, it's a touchy subject for the Democrats. Now, this might be Republican propaganda. The website that I got it from is Red State. I don't go there often, but they got the video, and so we're gonna play it for you.
Record the closing statements from Ranking Member McHenry and myself. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Jerry III.
Chairwoman Waters.
Presence here today.
Chairwoman Waters. I've
She's
not
so
had an
close.
opportunity to testify or to question the witness.
This son of a bitch.
I'd like to thank you for your presence.
Chairwoman Waters,
She tried to keep going too.
parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
Are all members entitled to question witnesses?
You are, and if you would like to miss the votes on the floor for
Hey,
everybody.
it's
just
the
one
chairwoman's
moment.
prerogative to call a
Just
recess.
one moment,
That's your
please.
decision, not mine.
Just one moment, please. You may go right ahead and have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're certainly welcome, sir. Record the closing statements
bitch,
from
right?
Ranking Member.
There's images of her with SBF out there, so I feel like
Oh.
she's trying to just get through this.
Oh man. Yeah, I would be too. I mean, what's up with just older political figures with that hair trigger anger, man? I don't like it's because they're hiding something. Obviously hiding something. And that's just me speculating, but
Yeah,
maybe she has to deal with this guy day in and day out. I don't know, but I hate
I
Maxine
think
Waters.
it's a combination of them being at the top of the crony power pyramid
Mhm.
because it takes a while to get there. And at the same time as I think that they grew up in a pre-internet era where there just isn't this ability to just generally question. So, well, isn't it crazy that probably arguably the most influential person on the planet right now might be Elon Musk, and in his own front yard of Twitter, like random people are just talking mad shit to him day in and day out, and he's like not banning them. And so it's a different like kind of generation. He's kind of the much younger generational mindset when just they grew up on the internet. Someone's always going to call you a loser in the YouTube comments. Hopefully not on this mighty show, but
Oh no, it'll
know,
happen.
yeah,
It'll happen on the show,
I'll do it myself if no one else
Yeah,
will. So
By the way, crony power pyramid would be a great shirt. You should sell that. That's great merch right there.
it's a great punk band name for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great
Like
punk
big
band
old
also.
Mayan temple thing on it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But I just thought that's
basically, I think
telling.
that's why she flipped out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's telling too. You can tell she didn't want to field all questions. Maybe she wanted to go to recess just from that clip. Of course, I should watch the whole thing to figure out what was going on before and after. But that's a little clip with no context. So what she obviously was disgruntled about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Without
sure.
a doubt.
Uh-huh.
And Joel, you also brought up the whole Binance thing too. I haven't really heard much about that, but I've heard a lot of people kind of bringing up Tether as a big point of concern as well.
Yeah. So I haven't been all the way down the Tether rabbit hole, but I've known of it for a while. I've kind of kept a cursory eye on it and followed a lot of the greatest critics and stuff. And I don't trust it because dollars are fake money, right? And if you have dollars in the bank, that's fractional reserve, and you have a fractional reserve of already fake money. And then when you use the dollars in the bank to back one for one, which is not the case in Tether, but let's just for argument's sake, one for one, now you have fake fractional reserve, fake money. But then with Tether's case, where they, I wouldn't say openly admit, but it is admitted, the dollars are not backed one for one by dollars in the bank account. They have like dubious other stuff, and there's been audits, but not really audits and all this kind of stuff.
Interesting.
fake money. It's fake. It's fractional reserve, fake fractional reserve, fake money.
Mm.
And if that doesn't give like House of Cards kind of vibes, I don't know what does. On the other hand, um, it's probably the most used trading pair in the entire crypto universe.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of big players. Of course, like Bitfinex is, one of their partners and stuff in that. But like, look up any exchange anywhere, see what the trading volume is for Tether and stuff like that. There's a lot of big players who are incentivized in seeing it remain solvent. And if you think about it, like the amount of money that's got to generate as a business has got to be pretty astronomical. So even if you start to you'd really have to screw up big time in order to lose, to let that thing collapse at this, even though it is a very shaky kind of thing. So I don't really see Tether collapsing anytime soon. Maybe this is my famous last words, and people play this podcast episode over and over and be like, look at what an idiot you had on. In which case, sorry. But one thing I've noticed is, first off, USDC, which is Circle / Coinbase, like all them, their stablecoin is rising pretty rapidly as far as like in usage and stuff. And BUSD, Binance USD, which is run by Paxos and stuff like that, which as far as I know, I'm pretty sure USDC and BUSD are both backed by fully fractional. Again, it's so silly to like say this out loud, but like backed fully by dollars in the bank. So probably more trustworthy than Tether, even though not as too big to fail. But the point is, like a few years ago, like before this, in the middle of last bear market, not the current one. So probably like 4 years ago or so. I did get nervous about Tether for a little while. That it was going to implode and everything would collapse. Now I don't know if it will, but more importantly, the space has kind of grown past that to a certain extent, and it's kind of diversified a little bit. So even if it does collapse, I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal. I do think that a lot of people involved with Bitfinex and stuff like that have you've noticed a lot of like the more inner circle of Bitcoin maximalists who are more or less involved with the Blockstream company were going out to bat for Tether a whole lot over the last few years. So I don't think it's that much of a stretch to say that there might be some kind of a connection, like maybe Bitcoin's price was pumped a little bit because of this or something. I don't know, but there's a lot. It's just really a lot we don't know. But I think, to summarize it, I think Tether is sketchy as hell. I also don't think it's going to immediately collapse. And I think that if it does eventually collapse, I don't think it's going to take out the whole space. I think it'll obviously cause some damage, but I think everything's going to be okay.
I like how you laid out why it's
Mhm.
sketchy before you just went on and said, but I think it's gonna be good for a while. Wasn't there a stablecoin maybe a few months ago, maybe over the summer, that did implode, right?
Yeah, that
Which
was
one was that?
Terra Luna or Terra USD,
Mhm.
and that's kind of an interesting.
Why
There's
why did
some.
that implode, and is it similar to Tether or these other stable coins?
I would say not entirely similar. It was a different kind of a thing. These other stablecoins are largely issued by a financial institution, and so they're like financial products. So that means that you can't trust them because they're centralized, right? But at the same time, you can they're a little bit more like known quantity in the old kind of legacy financial world. What Terra Luna was trying to do was to be a purely algorithmic stablecoin, meaning they were trying to make it in a completely sort of decentralized way. At least that's the hype behind it. And so the way Terra Luna worked is they had Terra Luna, which is a token, and then anytime you wanted to create this stablecoin called UST, you would destroy that dollar
Yeah.
amount
Yep.
of
Yep. Yep.
Luna, and then UST would be created in the same dollar amount, and then vice versa, going back and forth. So the idea behind this thing, it was even on like a bank run type scenario, this could not go to zero, because if let's just say you burn whatever, let's just say it's constantly going down, you'd be incentivized to then keep on buying Luna because you could mint more dollar value, you get more out of it, et cetera, et cetera. It would like balance out. The problem with that is, first of all, you got the market capitalization of the stablecoin went above that of Luna. So that kind of like say, it's basically like saying at that point it's like fractional reserve. It's obviously not, because there are market like mechanics and stuff. It's obviously not like not a completely apt comparison, but it basically the same thing, to where it became like way overloaded in the stablecoin side of things. And so then when they had like a bank run type thing, everyone was trying to run out, and it ended up being like just collapsing way faster than it could, stabilize.
Mhm.
And part of it also is that I used to use that kind of like Rick and Morty meme of like they pass the butter. Like what does Luna do? Because you meant UST. Oh my god. Like that's literally all it did. So if you're trying to get out of the stable coin and into this other token that all it does is let you get into the stable coin, then there's nothing behind that. But if you could redeem it for something that outside value, then eventually that would stabilize in a much better way. There's some connections, I think, between FTX and the Luna collapse as well, but I've only skimmed a few headlines. I can't comment too deeply on that because I haven't dug into it. But that might be a fun thing to look into.
That's interesting. And what you describe, is DAI technically an algorithmic stablecoin, or because I know with that one, it's more like you lock up the Ethereum, and then if you ever want to unlock it, you would have to come back with that amount of DAI or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the DAI works in a very similar way. There have been a bunch of algo stables that people have been kind of trying to do, but then after Luna's collapse, that kind of threw cold water on it. One of the ones that was the most promising that I think is going to be released in some kind of a way was by the Thorchain project, and their Thorchain's like another hour-long discussion entirely. But basically, they basically shelved that idea temporarily because their difference was the Rune token that you go in and out of had a lot of other uses. So there couldn't be that kind of like a bank run type thing, because you could always do other things with it. But also, I think they plan to cap the total amount of the stable coin that would exist at like a 10% or less of the entire supply of Rune. So even if there was a run, it would kind of peter out very quickly. So I think the idea of an algorithmic stablecoin it's very interesting. I think if you can pull it off, it could really make the world a better place in a lot of ways. But the problem with algorithmic stable of any kind of stable coin is, to a certain extent, you're telling the market what it should value a certain good. You're saying it's like price fixing kind of.
Mhm.
And that never really works well. I'm sure if you could say that a cup of coffee has to be $2 by law, I'm sure you could kind of make sure it really is. But then there's a whole bunch of other unintended consequences, such as, they have to charge other things. Like you pay this, but then the coffee quality goes down, or like whatever else. There's a whole bunch of other kind of things. So also, like, I don't think anything pegged to the US dollar is really that stable of a stable coin anyway, right?
Yeah,
Because
right.
the dollar's crashing all the time. It's kind of a figment of this weird world we're in, where we're in the fiat dominated world that is where the crypto industry is like growing into it. It's like training wheels kind of for the crypto industry. But like, I can't see in 20 years like a dollar or government currency backed or pegged coin being the most stable store of digital decentralized value out there. I think that by that time, something else will be far more stable.
Something else. Do you think it's going to be more stable, or do you think it's going to be more valuable than Bitcoin? Um, do you see Bitcoin as the number one cryptocurrency moving forward in the future? What's your stance there?
That's always one of those questions that the more I learn, the harder that becomes to answer. uh, so I think like Bitcoin's kind of been atop the pile the entire time. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that Bitcoin does that people are starting to sort of shed with newer projects that I think it's kind of like they should not necessarily be shed. I mean, it's one of the gold standard. I mean, I guess it's the original gold standard of decentralization. And even though there's like big mining farms and stuff like that, a lot of other projects are being less careful with a lot of things than Bitcoin was and stuff.
Hmm.
So I think the base Bitcoin model is going to be valuable for a long time. There's a couple of problems with Bitcoin. Obviously, the scaling problems mean it's just going to be, which affect even like Lightning Network and stuff like that, the layer two solutions. Uh, the scaling problems kind of make it harder for that to grow fast enough to like everyone in the world uses it. But more importantly, we're getting a little bit into the weeds here, I guess, but the Bitcoin security model doesn't have a long-term future the way things are structured today. And so it's going to just go bust if they don't change something. And what I mean by that is uh, most cryptocurrencies follow what Bitcoin did, which is 100% of the new coins created are it's inflation. So the network's entirely inflation run. And like in the early days, Bitcoin had like 90% inflation, 80% inflation, something astronomical. And as it gradually goes to zero. And that can be kind of thought of as startup capital, right? That you're burning through VC money until you have a business model and start getting revenue. And the revenue in the Bitcoin network and most other networks is fees, transaction fees. And so at some point, as you start running out of investor money or inflation, the inflation starts going down, 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 the fee revenue should go up, 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 and it should eventually take off. And now you're just running on revenue. And that's not happening. In fact, it's kind of going down the other way because at some point, the amount of transaction capacity in the actual blockchain was just capped at about 1 MB. Obviously, it's a little different because of SegWit, but that's another like 8-hour dissertation or something like that. But so basically, there's only around like a few hundred thousand transactions that can go through the network in a single day. And as inflation keeps going down, and the only way for the network to maintain that security is for fee revenue to go up. And since you can't process more transactions, you have to charge more for those transactions. The problem is people won't pay more for those transactions, especially if they can use stuff like Lightning to really cut down on that. And so all that money is going out of the main security model. And at some point, there's just going to be like nothing left over. Let me pull up a little site that I like to use, cryptofees.info. It's the total, I guess Bitcoin's not showing today, but whatever. Try to cite another day. Basically, Bitcoin generates somewhere around 500 grand a day in fees. So the entire network is run on like 500 grand, but most of it's inflation, right?
And the entire network is everyone who owns Bitcoin and mines Bitcoin, correct?
Yeah.
So
basically, you in order like it's not that simple, but in order to take over Bitcoin, a government or something would have to basically spend, let's just say, 600 grand in per day, something like that, in order to take it over. And I mean, for us peanut people, that's a lot of money, but for the government, that's absolutely not a lot of money. And so at some point, I mean, Ethereum, honestly, I think is the number one network today, for good and bad, I guess. Ethereum generates over 3 million a day in fees. And it also has some kind of scaling limitations and stuff right now. But basically, there was a decision.
when you say scale, sorry, because I'm getting hung up. I'm not in too deep, in as deep as you guys. When you say scaling, my first thought with the Bitcoin was, if it's a global network, how can there be scaling issues if the network is only as big as, not only, but is as big as everyone who owns it? It's a global peer-to-peer network. So Does that have
Yeah.
anything to do with it? Is that a dumb question? Like,
No, that's a very valid question. Um, the thing is, the way things work with traditional blockchain, which is a chain of blocks, is when I send is every transaction is just an update to a global ledger, global like Excel document of like this person owns this much, this person owns this much. That's just endlessly. And every time you want to update that, that's a transaction. And what happens is everyone sends their transactions, assuming you're just doing it from your phone, right? You send it to a node, and the node sends it to the whole blockchain. And then there's this big like waiting thing called the mempool, the memory pool. And then there's a chain of blocks that goes along every 10 minutes. And at some point, the miners find those and then they put them into a block every 10 minutes. They stuff them into a block every 10 minutes. And so the thing is, the entire network has to agree on all the transactions. Like literally, it's sort of like saying you have a council of 100 people. Every time one of these people changes money, you have to say, let the record show that this person has more money, and everyone has to know about it. That's kind of how a blockchain works. It's the global state of the ledger gets updated constantly. And that's the scaling bottleneck, is how fast can you kind of like, how big can those blocks, those like trolley cars, get to fit stuff, or how fast can they go through, or in some other cases, for each passenger equivalent, how many people's transactions worth can be crammed into one actual transaction.
so we're talking speed of transactions when we're saying scalability, right? And
Yes,
Ethereum's way
global
faster.
speed.
Global speed.
Ethereum's a little faster. Like I would say Ethereum processes a couple million transactions
Or
a day. So
Ethereum 2.0, or didn't they get faster with 2.0?
that's all. No, that's a
No.
misconception. But they work. It was
Okay.
kind of marketed that would turn out. But basically, Ethereum does 10 times as many transactions around about as Bitcoin, but they're much more data intensive, and they tend to not usually be payments. They tend to usually be contract operations. And so, for example, when we're talking about USDC, that's like the stable coin that's on Ethereum usually, because it's like a regulated stable coin, they have blacklists. So you cannot, kind of like a bank, you cannot send USDC to certain blacklisted addresses. And because of that, it costs more money to send USDC than other coins, because the smart contract has to run through a little program saying, filter out these addresses, and that just costs more money because that's an Ethereum transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting how that works. But basically, the global scaling bottlenecks, that's kind of what that is. Now, the Lightning Network, as a little bit of an aside, because I did a video on this recently, and so it's kind of more fresh in my mind. The Lightning Network is different in that.
Can you post? Sorry, Leighton's killing me in this chat over here. Mitch, post him so he stops. Yeah. You broke
Leighton's
me, Leighton. Welcome
our
to the
producer.
chat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a bad titty job, I have to say. You got to get your money back on that one. Talk about the stripper lighting.
I like how he says we have 3 degrees of pale here, but he is just as white as all of us, if not more. He lives in Alaska. You're in the dark 6 months out of the year.
Well, what's funny is I'm half Mexican and a quarter Italian, so I'm 3/4 Latin, but I'm white as fuck. So what are you gonna do?
You got the wrong side of those genes, man.
Well, perfect for the New Hampshire climate, that's for sure.
There you go. All right. There you go. Leighton, I hope you're happy now. You ruined our train of thought. You derailed the podcast. I'm going to blame myself.
I think I was going way too deep on some of those things.
Yeah,
that can happen when going
surface level. No, so I did have a question, because I like the idea of this coin, or this token, BAT, basic attention token. I use the Brave browser. I like the concept of it. What do you think about basic attention token? And can you give like the background, like what it does and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's another one of those complicated questions. I know just enough to make it super complicated. But basically, the Brave, there's a company called Brave that makes the best browser out there. I think you should use Brave if you don't. Mm-hmm. This is on Brave for me right now. I actually I'm actually partnering with Brave for some companies I work with for advertisements and stuff too. So all under the Brave. So if you're watching this, anyone from Brave, please forgive me if I shit talk your token just a little bit. But so the BAT token it's a great idea in that it's kind of like the company token. They create this thing and they allow it to be used in their integrated economy, but they also give it to people in exchange, usually for like watching ads. So in an old business model, you, the customer, are the product, unlike a Facebook or whatever. You show up, use it for free, but really you are valuable to them because they use you to like put advertisements in front of you and they make money off of you. They keep all that money. Now, Brave, first off, allows you to not have any ads at all. Like they block all ads and stuff like that by default, and then they have their own kinds of ads that don't track, which as someone who's running a Brave campaign, a Brave ad campaign right now, those ads, like it's very difficult to get tracking analytics, data for how well your ad campaign is going because Brave doesn't have that information because they don't collect like privacy infringing stuff. But anyway, so you can choose to look at ads if you want. Like if you want to turn on ads, you can turn on ads, but we'll pay you a little bit of that in the basic attention token, and that then you can use for other stuff. And so it's kind of it's a really neat idea of like incentivizing this like tipping, this like peer-to-peer economy, because you can also auto contribute your ad stuff to like a creator or something like that. It's a lot of good stuff. My issue with that, well, I have two issues. First off, it's made for like small creators and stuff usually, but it's an ERC20 token, meaning it's an Ethereum token, meaning it's a Ethereum smart contract operation every time you want to go send it. And so let me see what are the Ethereum fees right now? There were nothing pretty. The average transaction fee, that's only like $2.68. So you probably spend $5 just to send your BAT somewhere. And that's already annoying. Because like if you get paid, someone tips you $12, you get $12 for like a 6 months of looking at ads, and then half of that goes away to fees just to send it around. That sucks. But the big thing that annoys me is that they don't let you withdraw from the platform except through Uphold. Now, first off, that means that you cannot anonymously, privately, whatever, get your Brave rewards. You have to give them your government ID in order to get it out, which turns it back into like a bank account style thing. And second, Uphold these days tends to just be a pain in the butt exchange to use. It's not smooth like some other ones. So it's like a basic attention token is a great idea that just like the end user result of it just has a couple of things that are really annoying.
And like earning, I only use Brave browser, and I'm checking it right now, and I don't have like any. I have like a penny in US dollars worth of tokens, so I must not have had it turned on, I guess.
Yeah, I got like a few bucks
On my
and
computer. On my phone, I use it on my phone as well, so I hope it's
You
been getting it
you
there.
can also go into settings and change how many ads you get per day
Yes,
or per
yeah, I
hour
do
or
that.
something like that. Yeah.
I say bring them on. I just want all the tokens. Like bring me the
yeah,
ads. I don't care. I want the money.
Shit, I'm
yeah,
pretty
that
sure
makes
I'm
sense.
the only person who donates to a lot of people in our space through the basic attention token.
Hmm
Mm-hmm.
I want to try and do. I mean, it tells you how who you watch and all that more. So if they accept it, then they can accept. That's why I like the concept. But I did not know that about the Ethereum smart contract backing. I guess you could say
Mm-hmm.
of it. So that's interesting stuff. I like Ethereum. Our previous guest, he had nothing but terrible things to say about Ethereum, and maybe we can get you guys on and like,
Yeah. So my guess, I have some criticism of Ethereum myself. However, I think that he probably hates it for all the wrong reasons.
okay,
I'm just guessing. My Ethereum has some really interesting tokenomic stuff. First of all, they did solve their actual sustainability thing because they figure out how to make the whole thing run on fees. Their mint and burn mechanism is kind of interesting because when you spend Ethereum fees, they get destroyed. Like those, this is ever since EIP 1550 now, which is like middle of last year, I think. But like basically, instead of when you send a Bitcoin transaction, the miner who mines the block or whatever with the transaction, they get the fee, and it just transfers to them. Whereas with Ethereum, the fees get destroyed. And so what happens when a fee gets destroyed, that means the entire supply of the coin becomes more scarce. Therefore, the individual units become more valuable, right? So the weird fee burn mechanism thing means that the more people use the network, everyone who holds Ethereum gets paid essentially in scarcity.
Yeah.
Because of that. So basically, if Ethereum does well as a business, as a network, if it thrives, everyone who holds Ethereum gets better off, which I think is kind of cool in a lot of ways. Also, it's kind of maybe not cool in a way that the people who just sat around, it incentivizes people a little bit of a free rider thing, where you get paid by people who you get paid because other people do the work, as in process transactions. That would be like your town coffee shop does fantastic business, but because you're in the town, you get paid a little stipend from that.
Mhm.
You didn't do anything for it. So, that's a little me. The things that I think that Ethereum is kind of not prioritized decentralization enough. I think that they could do a few more things. There's this, let me see. There's a site called nevwatch.info. I'm just throwing all these stupid nerd sites that no one else is going to visit ever again. But basically,
Yeah, it's like every time Bitcoin people come on here, they have like these obscure things they want us to join, and I wrote the other ones down, so I do write them down, and I go check them every now and then, but it'd be a load to take, and
well,
just
that
go.
site that I just said, it basically just shows that 70% of Ethereum's blocks reject a certain amount of censored transactions that the OFAC is it's on their blacklist. The Office of Foreign, whatever it is.
Oh,
But,
fuck. Sorry.
yeah,
dude.
exactly.
So yeah, you lost me.
But that's basically like having, a subway where 2/3 or 70% of the cars won't open their doors to people who are on a government blacklist.
Mm.
So a third, like 30% of them, you can still get in. So it just means it takes you significantly longer to get transactions through if you're one of these people. But eventually, if that number gets too high, like 90% or 100%, then it's essentially a government censored network.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Yeah, that's
halfway
true.
there, kind of. So and I understand that can happen to Bitcoin, and some Bitcoin mining pool tried to do that too at one point, and everyone freaked out. I just think that everyone needs to freak out about this. Like everyone needs to, decentralization. You can't just say, I wrote it in the code, it's decentralized, boom. You can make it work that way, but then people have to actually implement it. Like
You got to keep it that way.
just, yeah, it's like, Republic if you can keep it and all that kind of stuff. So,
I can hear the music. You're trying to play us out. I did want to ask Joel one other question. Just I know none of this is investment advice. None of this is financial advice. But your top 3 coins going into 2023, if you were gonna play around with cryptocurrency this year, excluding, I guess if you want to include Bitcoin and Ethereum, go ahead and do it.
Well, I'm gonna do this not from the investment point of view. I'm gonna be just the utilitarian point of view. 3 things that I think you could use in your daily life to do stuff. Well, first, Dash. That's the one I use for my daily money since 2016. And if you download the Dash wallet, you can basically have like a map of everywhere to spend it. You can buy it in the app. You can stake in the app and earn kind of interest, and then just go spend it at merchants and stuff, including Home Depot, Best Buy, Dunkin' Donuts, all the kind of stuff. Just you can mostly live off of crypto with kind of one app. In fact, that's kind of what the Brave browser is. Ad campaigns about it, kind of doing some ads for the Dash project. So that's one. Number 2 is Thorchain, and Thorchain is basically you could consider it a crypto exchange, except it's entirely decentralized. So if you go to, let's say, Thor Wallet or Thor Swap or some of these front ends, you can swap any token for any other token that they support without, like, it's automated. It's part of like the chain itself. It's like there's no company behind it to shut down or anything. You can just kind of do that. But also you can do stuff like provide liquidity for the decentralized protocol and like earn interest on your money. So like you can get like, I think 4% APY in a decentralized Bitcoin savings account paid in Bitcoin like today. Like you put Bitcoin in, you get kind of some of that, and then you just press a button and it gets back out. So that's some pretty revolutionary stuff. And then the other one I would say is probably Zcash, because the privacy wars are really ramping up soon. And this has kind of been one of the number one things I was into crypto for. I wanted a kind of anonymous currency. And as far as I know, Zcash is the one that delivers that kind of the best as far as like the zero knowledge proofs and everything like that. And the
Are you
privacy
excluding Monero? Just
well, I think if I couldn't say Zcash, I would have probably said Monero, right? I just think that Zcash is that, because the way the privacy system works, it's much more airtight than, like, there's a lot more exploits and I could do a whole episode on all the random exploits that have happened in Monero over the years. They've patched and things have changed and stuff. It's gotten better, but it's a lot riskier of a model. It's a decoy based model rather than a zero knowledge model. And so because of that, it's not as airtight. And so I would probably go for Zcash over that. But I mean, why not both, right? Just
that's good stuff.
You can also use Monero more places today practically than you can for Zcash in most cases. So it might be a good idea to have both, because a lot of times you might have to use Monero instead anyway.
Thank you.
So there you go. 3.5.
Yeah, that's good. Great.
Yeah, those were some good answers. All right, so we are nearing on the hour here. So, is there anything you want to plug before we wrap things up here?
I mean, I think I just did. So those things, other than if you look up Digital Cash Network, and that's my YouTube/Odyssey channel and podcast. And in the new year, I'm going to come out with a revamped How to Live on Crypto series. That's just like one video that shows you how you could live entirely off of crypto. And some point in the spring, I'm going to do how to build a business to run entirely off of crypto.
It's
so
Digital Cash Network.
Digital Cash Network. That's just the name on, like, YouTube. Just search it. Odyssey, search it. And then you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at the Desert Links. Not Desert Linux, at the Desert Links. Let me write that in live chat.
It's a good dad joke you can throw around there.
Yeah, of course.
That's a good one. Way to end on a dad joke, Joel. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
Rob, you plugging anything? Got any dates?
Go follow Decrim Nature Florida, Decriminalize Nature Florida, and help us decriminalize plant medicines and entheogens here in the state of Florida.
Hell yeah. And go check out 1776swag.com as well as Retro Remnant to get some of the best merch out there, including crypto merch. And also, since we're continuing the crypto series, I just want to remind everyone listening that if we reach 300 I'm lowering it from 350 to 300. If we reach 300 subscribers on YouTube by Christmas, we will all watch the FTX sex tape and react.
There you go.
Do you have the tape?
I have been warned by several people on Twitter not to look it up.
Wow.
Okay.
Also, if you're watching this, hit that like and subscribe button on the Swampcast Network.
Hell yeah. All right, everyone. We will see you next week.